below zero hits us in life. Built for the cold, you say? That ain't right. Too cold for the average Joe, just right for those who hear the show. In the image of greatness you were made, but taught by the world to be played. A new generation, we're building. No victims, we're creating. Them haters, keep hating, cause Gen Zero, we blazing. Welcome to another episode of the Built for the Cold podcast. Too cold for the average Joe, just right for me and the listeners and viewers of this show, where we're finishing up our series called Separation Season, which is, again, just the season around the holidays when most people take, 2 to 3 months off to kind of coast through the rest of the year. Well, a few select individuals decide, hey, what are the one or two things I'm going to do to actually set myself apart from everyone else and do them now? I'm not waiting for the New Year's resolutioners to come. I'm going to do things now. I don't care what the holidays are coming. I'm going to spend some time with my family. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do those things, but the holidays are only a couple different days. I'm going to do things now. So kind of recap of the last four, right? We kind of went through a couple things. First, we talked about handling adversity, some systems I gave you guys on how to do that in your life, right? If you want some ideas there. Also, just the power of understanding we don't get in life what we want. We get what we accept. We get the standards we accept. We get like who enters our life is based off what we accept. How we live our day and our fitness level is based off what we accept, and our energy, what we accept. Everything's based off what we accept. We talked about rewiring our brain around fear. Fear is just false evidence appearing real. And if you listen to the episode, I'll remind you again, I believe we're more scared and afraid of success than we are of failure. And I shared why. Okay. The final thing we ran into is how to actually a system that can help you stack consistency, right? Consistency trumps intensity every single day, week, month of the year, 100%. People that do things more consistent will always end up better in the long run. Today, we are talking about something I call that might be a little hukubuku for some of you. I'm not here to preach faith. Obviously, I have a faith. I'm very thankful for my faith, but I'm not here to say, hey, you have to have my faith, that you have to believe in God, Allah, whoever, okay? It's about spiritual alignment, because regardless of what faith you have, I don't think anyone can argue there's a certain energy and alignment and order in the universe that's either working for us or it's working against us, right? It's why momentum actually is always working for us. It's either working with us, helping us get the things we want out of life, or it's working against us. Doesn't mean we have to know it is, right? It just naturally is. It's either happening or it's happening in the wrong direction. We're either progressing or we're regressing. There is no status quo. That's the biggest myth. Everyone thinks like, oh, I can just kind of stay here. You just staying there is by inherently regressing in life, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean it's whether it's your fitness, your finances, your relationships with your family. Nothing stays the same. It's either improving or it's not improving, going the heck. I talked about this in episode 11 of this podcast, where it really just covered the different drugs and vices people get involved in. It doesn't mean you have to do actual like stimulants or actual like drugs, but binge watching TV, binge eating, being addicted to fast food, doing different things and activities with people maybe you shouldn't be around that are kind of dragging you back from your actual purpose in life. Like those are all different things that are a form of drug or a vice. So anything that deals with those things, inherently what I have found, and I've studied this quite a bit myself, because they have things working for them. Momentum is working for them because they choose activities and habits that align with the natural order of the world, right? So here's what I mean. Because I hear sometimes, right, people that may get, I don't know, offended by this message. Like, well, Joe, I don't do anything like that bad. I'm kind of, how bad can it be? I kind of just drink every now and then. I just smoke every now and then. I have fast food here and there. It's not really that big of a deal. Okay. Well, why are we making it such a big deal? It's not a big deal if I kind of have some relationships here, or I'm just having sex with whoever. Again, I'm going to speak to all these different things. I'm not here to judge you on a moral code, but I can tell you this. If you think of the person that engages in those activities versus the person who doesn't, who do you think has, how do I want to say, more time, energy, and capacity to align with the energy of a higher power? Who do you think does? The person that engages in it, even if it's every so often, even just an ounce, right? You guys know the iodine experiment in water, right? You put just one drop of iodine, changes the whole water completely. Just one taint, just one lie, just one bad habit, right? And it can taint the whole thing of water. And you guys have seen that before. Okay. I'm sure many of you did seventh grade science or whatever it was. So we learned that, right? But now it's like, how do we not prevent that from actually taking away from our ability to align with the different things that all of us, I believe, deep down really want, right? But it's examining a certain kind of health that I don't think many gurus out there really talk about. And it's actually the health of your soul, right? So Taylor Welch, one of my favorite speakers, in his podcast Through the Deep End, he had this radical view of spiritual alignment that resonated so crazy with me that it actually led to the woman I'm with now, who I'm about to marry. And I'll share that story in a second. But actually getting into deep spiritual alignment because you've figured out how to eliminate the vices and drugs of life that come at you, which I believe most come at you because either you're drifting, you doubt yourself, you fall into the things of the devil. We talked about that, the devil's favorite 2Ds, right? He can get you drift, he gets you just on all these different kinds of drugs of life. And it distracts you from your purpose of your soul, which is the health of your soul. And so it's not about just like, hey, this is a good thing to do to have spiritual alignment and what Taylor Welch calls like, hey, paying your spiritual dues. You can align right now with the universe if you wanted to and just be like, hey, I'm sorry for all these things. Today, moving forward, I set all those things aside and the spiritual realm and the universe and the alignment order of those worlds actually comes to your favor. I've seen it myself. I'll give you an example. Now, I've taken a part in a lot of these different things, not necessarily from like drugs. And I did drink at one point that maybe surprises some of you. There was one point because I was unhappy in a lot of different things. That's a whole different story, right? But the moment that I actually aligned myself spiritually and understood that I could just kind of repent for anything that I had done and open myself up to whatever God's will was for my life, it allowed something miraculous to happen. And here's my story on it, right? So many of you are starting to know who my fiance is, right? You're hearing me talk about her a little bit more, different things that we've been doing together. And how I met her was a pretty wild. I had just, kind of been from a divorce, as many of you know, and I had spent a lot of personal time with God, personal retreat, everything else. And I ended up in negative 20 degrees in northern Wisconsin in the beginning of January when no one else was there, and a lot of peace, prayer, and silence, and just repenting for all of my faults and my mistakes in my previous marriage, but also in just like all the selfishness that I needed to get rid of, right? I just knew that if I focused on myself instead of what she did, meaning my ex-wife, if I just focused on that, right, I could get in a right relationship with the spiritual world and I knew blessing was going to come my way. Now, did I know this type of blessing was going to come my way as quick as it did? Absolutely not. But when I was praying and everything else, I was like, okay, am I just not meant to be married and have kids? That was a real thought I was having. I was praying to God. I'm like, is this what you have for me? I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm doing all these things. I'm traveling a lot. Is that really what you have for me? Can I actually do this? Am I meant to be a father? Am I meant to be really a husband while I build businesses and scale this how I believe called to do? And he told me to repent very quick, right? Because he had a wife prepared for me. And I was like, I'm not, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like I just recently got out of this divorce. I don't understand, right? How could that be possible? But I did honor him and I wrote down every single thing. I was like, all right, well, if this is what's going to be, I'm not going to look. I'm just going to trust you. And I wrote down every single thing that I wanted in my wife, every single thing, down to the physical attributes, everything. Sure and behold, right? Meeting her through a Christian dating app. It was insane how she met everything instantly. And we, met over the dating app, FaceTime till 5 a.m, and the rest is history. And, now we're about to be married. And I think the biggest thing that happened that allowed that to happen, because even when I showed her the list that I physically wrote down, she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that every single thing that I'd written down from everything matched exactly who she is today and where she's going. And I don't believe that kind of stuff happens unless you have spiritual alignment, unless you're aligned with the energy of the universe, and you've paid what Taylor Welch actually calls so well, but what I'm repeating, the paying your spiritual dues, owning your faults, owning your mistakes, being accountable to the areas in which you need to improve. Not what everyone else needs to do to change, especially if those of you in relationships right now hearing this. It's not about what he or she isn't doing. It's do you deserve the person that you want from them? Are you willing to admit that? Are you willing to admit where you fall short? Because if you don't, and you don't align with the natural order of the universe and how it rewards good behavior and it inherently gives consequences to bad behavior, if you don't align with that, I see so many people fall into the victim mindset of, oh, this is what happened. Okay, well, it's their fault or whatever. And if you continue to go that path, I pray for you, because that's not aligning spiritually and paying your spiritual dues. It's looking in the mirror, being, all right, that's the person that I need to change. That's the only person I need to change. And that's only who I'm going to focus on, because everything else will gravitate toward me if I become that change agent in my own life. With that, hope you guys are all encouraged. If it was with another cup of Joe, fantastic. If you drink coffee like me, oh well. But again, we'll see you on the next one.
This is where winners learn to be great. Built for the cold, you say? That damn straight. The lessons, the love, the insights from above. Hope you take them and grow, even with another cup of Joe. Thank you for dropping in and listening to the show.